Welcome into the Autzen Audibles podcast. On today's show, I'm Matt Preem. Jared Mack is also on the show today. And joining us from the University of Oregon's football program in the recruiting department, director of scouting is Tyler Dean. Tyler, first time on the show. Thank you for giving us your time. I know June is a very busy month. How you doing, man?
Yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's a pleasure to take some time and talk with you guys. We're holding up. We're making sure that we're getting through June. June's a great month for recruiting, and for our jobs, it's a fun time of year. So really excited to get a chance to finish up this June and see where it leads us.
So you're the director of scouting here at Oregon. Before we get into just kind of Oregon stuff and recruiting and your background and whatnot, can you just talk about just how did you get into this profession? What was your path to Oregon? How did you get into this role that you currently have with the Ducks?
Yeah, I'd say I got into sports because of my dad. My dad was a all-time winningest coach at Rhodes College, the women's basketball. Won 233 games, made 3 NCAA tournaments, and just kind of saw him as a leader and a mentor and being around sports. Grew up playing sports, loving sports, and wanted to do something with that as a career. So I got a chance to be on his staff as a student assistant when I was a student at Rhodes. And during that time, I also got a chance to be able to work in game day football and basketball ops over at the University of Memphis. And that was when I crossed paths with Coach Lanning. So he was actually the outside linebackers coach at the University of Memphis when I was there. And I was just a student trying to find my way in and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And when I graduated from Rhodes in 2017, had an opportunity to go work in athletic development over at the University of Memphis. And that was my first job. I had a portfolio of donors that I called on and fundraised money. And some of those skills translated in a recruiting role. And so the opportunity opened up at Texas A&M before the 2018 season to get into recruiting. I had a couple recommendations from a few people I knew at Memphis to go get that job. And I kind of went in there not really knowing what to expect in this crazy landscape of college football, but I kind of went in there with the mentality of putting my head down and be a sponge and learn as much as possible. I didn't play D1 football at the highest level. I didn't play in the NFL, so I was kind of beyond the 8 ball when I got that opportunity. But I knew at the end of the day, one thing that I learned from my parents and just the people around me is hard work works. And just kind of try to soak up as much as possible and got into the personnel and recruiting side of things and just learned as much as I could about evaluations. There was really 2 people at the 4 years at A&M that I credit my growth and development to. One by the name of Austin Thomas, who's now the GM at Ole Miss. At the time, my first 2 years at A&M, he was our boss and taught me a lot about evaluations and how to watch film and what to look for. But then my last 2 years, I saw my development and career path kind of really take off under Marshall Malka, who's our chief of staff here at Oregon. I owe the world to Marshall. He's an absolute, great friend of mine. And I can't say enough great things about how he taught me to be an elite recruiter, how to always be thinking differently, thinking outside the box, how we're going to push the envelope and try to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the country. And I think that the proof is in the pudding. What we did our last year at A&M in 2022, at the time, signed the best class in college football recruiting history. And we had some unbelievable times there at A&M, but I knew if Marshall ever left that I wanted the opportunity to go work with Marshall. And he had become great friends with Coach Lanning at the University of Georgia. And that's how that kind of transpired when Coach Lanning got the opportunity to come out here. And it was time for me to follow Marshall and take my career to the next step. So really fortunate to be around some great people in my life, especially in the last 5 years in college football. And been learning from the best and just trying to be a sponge and just put my head down and go to work.
Tyler, I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it. We love talking to all you guys, players included, but the coaching staff as well. I want to start off on a light note. Last year, you were the SNL MC. I know you guys have plenty of time to figure out what it's going to be this upcoming July, but are you going to be the SNL MC again?
I am, and I got to bring a little bit more juice to that thing this year. I got to get in the gym and practice a little bit and make sure maybe you guys can have me back in your studio and give me a few pointers of how to liven the crowd up a little bit. But No, it's a great event. Absolutely enjoyed every minute of that camp, and it's a great day for us to be able to host some elite recruits on campus and give the fans an opportunity to kind of see it behind the scenes of a structure of camp and what we do with some recruits.
I just wanted to follow that up. You mentioned that you ran into Dan the first time over at Memphis. I guess just what's it like working with him now? Seeing him then, learning who he was, and becoming that or building that relationship to what he is now as he's going into his second year as Oregon's head coach.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for Coach Lanning. He is an absolute unbelievable football coach, and to see his development as a coach from then into being the best defensive coordinator in the country his last 2 years at Georgia into what he is now. His career arc has absolutely skyrocketed. But I think at the end of the day, he's an even better person. The way he connects with our players and our staff from the top down, there's no stone left unturned with Coach Lanning. He absolutely pours into this program. And it's a pleasure to be able to be a staff member in his staff because, you're going to get everything that he's got and you don't want to let him down. You want to work as hard as you can to make sure that you're doing the best possible for Coach Lanning and make this program great. So it's just a pleasure to work for a guy like that, a guy that's so down to earth and humble. You see him out at a restaurant and someone comes up to him and asks for a picture and it's no hesitation. He's taking that picture, signing the autograph. Like, he's a man of the people, and he demands out of you, but he's never demeaning. And I think there's a difference, and that's the kind of guy that you want to work for. And when you have that kind of leader, you're going to get a great culture. You're going to get people that run through a wall for him.
I think if people see your title, director of scouting, they might think you're just holed up in a dark room watching film all day. To Jared and I, that's not true. We see you out at football practice. We see you with recruits. You're all over the place. Can you just kind of give some insight into what you do on a day-to-day basis? Because you and a lot of other people in your department have become a huge piece of college football. 10, 15 years ago, support staffs were 3 or 4 people, and now you have 15, 20, 30, some places even more than that. Just from your perspective and your role, what are you doing behind the scenes that the average fan just may not know about?
Yeah, Matt, I think you hit on the head. I think college football, the big-time programs have adapted the NFL model. And that really started with Alabama when Marshall was there as a student. They were really the first team to kind of adapt that model. But, nowadays you have a big support staff in recruiting and personnel. And there's so many people in this building that make this thing tick and are extremely vital to the operation of our organization. Just from our department, we have about 6 guys in personnel with me. Blake Redmond, Kobe Saya, Drew House, Brian Bachman, Ryan Brosnan, Jake Kaneda. Those are kind of my guys. They all have 1 or 2 positions that they're in charge of on a daily basis, managing the board, watching film, making sure that we're communicating well with prospects. Any issues that may arise, that they're making sure they're the front lines to help the coaching staff, and they're developing great relationships with the recruits, and then you kind of look at our recruiting operation. You have our director of recruiting, Pat Biondo, who is with me, and Marshall at A&M, who's one of my best friends, and I actually live with Pat. But Pat absolutely crushes everything in recruiting in terms of itineraries and the day-to-day operations. And then we got 2 other staff members, Lydia Gibbs, who's our director of on-campus recruiting. A lot of people around town know her as the Queen of Eugene. She is a rock star. Absolutely connects with parents and recruits and does a tremendous job. And then J.R. Mawala, who helps kind of organize all the travel and the flights and the rental cars and the hotels, the stuff that to have elite official visits, all that has to go well, or else you're starting off on a bad foot, right? Or you can leave a bad taste in the mouth on a return flight home. So all that information and everything that goes into having great recruiting events and building a great board and managing the roster. There's so many people that go into this thing, and just from my end, on a day-to-day basis, as the director of scouting, I'm making sure that I'm first, a good oversight, and making sure that everyone has responsibilities each day at their position. Who we're watching, who we're evaluating. Are we pushing guys up the pipeline? In identification and evaluation, the main thing we want to do is no stone left unturned. We're going to every single kid that needs to be watching our footprint and nationally, we're going to make sure we watch them. And the guys that need to be escalated up to the coaches, we're going to do so and make sure that they get eyes on them. And then it's a big filter, right? So, it works all the way up to the coordinators and Coach Lanning. And I kind of help Coach Lanning and Marshall with the guys that he needs to watch and get eyes on and the final say on kids. But it's fun. You got to wear a lot of hats in recruiting, and you got to do a lot of jobs that, may not be sexy, but you just got to get the job done, whether it's picking a kid up, at midnight, take them to the airport, whatever the case may be. You need to be able to wear a lot of hats in recruiting. And, I think our staff has bought in completely. This is the best staff I've ever been around from the top down in terms of recruiting, from the head coach, the coordinators, the position coaches, the support staff, the GAs, analysts, and then also, our team in recruiting and personnel. We got such good chemistry and really, really enjoy working with this group of people because I think we got a bright future with this organization with the way they were trending. And, we've had some success in the last couple months, but this isn't exactly where we want to be yet. We're still building this thing up and trying to take this thing to the next level.
So you mentioned that college football staff, the makeup of it's kind of changed, recently. Has it changed since you've gotten into the field as well? College football, it's in a state right now where there's been a lot of change, whether it's NIL or transfer portal. I'm curious, just from the recruiting side of college football staffs, has it changed since you've gotten in? Because it feels like it may have with how much change has happened across the sport just altogether.
Yeah, it definitely has. When I first got in, we maybe had 2 full-time staff members in the back room at A&M, and now all of a sudden here at Oregon, we got a team of 10 of us that all have roles and responsibilities. And if you don't have that, you're kind of behind the times. I think in college football, and today, you need to be an and program, not a but program. And that's the same thing that we kind of tell our guys with going to the draft, because scouts are looking for and players. You need to be able to check as many boxes as possible for them to be able to invest all the money and resources into you. And for programs, you need to be an and program and be able to check as many boxes. And one of those boxes, in my opinion, is having the support staff around these players to be able to, give these guys a smooth transition. And, if you don't have that amount of people on your team, you're going to be left behind. So, yeah, it's changed. I think the number of bodies in the organization that it takes to be successful at the highest level has definitely, there's been more of an emphasis on that for your premier programs, for sure.
Tyler, I'm glad you brought up Marshall in one of your first answers here, because you're a hard guy to research for, and your connection with Marshall, your overlap was one of the very few things that I found down there in College Station. Just, could I just kind of walk me through what that relationship has been like? You guys meet at College Station and you go from there, come to Oregon. Just how has that relationship grown? How has Marshall helped you? And what's it like seeing him as one of the most heralded guys now as the chief of staff for Oregon?
Oh man, Marshall's one of my best friends. And the way our relationship has grown the last 4 years is truly remarkable. And it's been a blessing for me to be able to have a guy like that's a day-to-day mentor. When I first started working with Marshall at A&M, Marshall taught me a lot of how to build a board, how to make sure that we're having elite recruiting visits. Just the little stuff that he instilled in me on a day-to-day basis. But now it's transitioned to, I believe Marshall has a lot of faith and trust in what I have the ability to do and what Pat has the ability to do. And he's given us an opportunity to now become leaders of our own. And because he's doing a lot of the bigger picture, higher up oversight for the entire organization, and so Marshall now has instilled in me a lot of confidence to be able to handle the personnel side of things and manage the board and help build the best roster as possible. And talent acquisition is the name of the game in college football, so I don't take this job lightly. I couldn't do it without the work of all the guys in the back office. But yeah, man, Marshall is more than just a boss and a coworker. I mean, he's a true friend and someone that I'll cherish our relationship forever. So he's meant a lot to me.
The month of June, it's an important month. You touched on that at the very beginning for college football. It's not always been that way. it was kind of the start of summer about 20 years ago for some of these guys that are coaching that far back. But now between official visits, unofficial visits, camps that you and your staff can be at, whether it's at another university or camps that you are hosting on campus, just what's the month of June? Why is it so important? And just kind of what's like a typical day for your department right now? It feels like you could be doing a whole bunch of things all in one day.
Yeah, the month of June is kind of our Super Bowl in recruiting. And like you said, I think it really changed after COVID because COVID, it opened up for recruiting around the month of June a couple of years ago. And so I think everyone saw a lot of success in the month of June. And now with the calendar's transition. So just to kind of walk through the way the recruiting calendar now works. The month of June, a lot of your weekends are dedicated to official visits. So you get to have 56 official visits throughout the calendar year. And a lot of teams start using those official visits in the month of June. So you have basically 4 weekends in June to get a lot of official visitors on campus, but you're also going to a lot of mega camps around the country. You're having camps of your own. So we actually are starting up camps here Thursday and Friday, and then we'll have another 2 next week where you're trying to get some live evals on some kids. We'll have a 7-on-7 tournament with a skills camp and a big man camp all on the same day. And there's nothing you can replicate other than a live eval. Like it's super valuable for our coaching staff to be able to see a kid work out live. You know, you can watch film, you can build profile tapes, the good, bad, ugly tapes. You can go into schools and get notes from their teachers and their coaches and find out what the janitor says about the kids. But until you see a kid work out live, you truly don't have the best evaluation of a kid. And so, it's a push right now for us to get kids on campus to come work out for us, especially your young kids, your 25s, your 26s, your 27s. You want to try to get a jump start and sit in a good position going into the summer. So we're trying to get a lot of young kids on campus right now to come work out for us and get a good eval. And, the ones that do a really good job on campus, then you have an opportunity to have a little unofficial visit for them, after camp. And then, once camp is over, we go right into official visits. So, we're going to make sure that our official visitors are targeted and they're guys that have been on campus before. And we feel either that they're committed or we feel like we're in a really good position for them, moving forward. So it's a great month to be a Duck. This is a lot of fun for us to be able to have these families that we've built relationships now since, maybe some of these kids a year and a half, 2 years when they were young kids when we first initially offered, to now that they're finally taking their official visit and trying to make it a summer decision. You've seen a lot of kids' timeline move up with the way that the signing day now works in early December. A lot of kids want to go ahead and sign in the early signing period and then, be a mid-year. That's the new transition. As y'all saw our signing class this past year, we brought in a lot of mid-years. So the calendar's kind of been pushed up. And so this is kind of a sprint to the finish to get into July. And then you won't hear much from me for about 3.5 weeks before SNL starting June 25th. But, hopefully we finish this month out strong and give the Ducks fans some stuff to be excited about going into July.
Official visits. They passed, the NCAA passed a new rule now where it's unlimited for the player. You guys still have a limit on how many you can bring in each, every school. It's not just you. But you feel like that's a good thing where the prospects can have an unlimited amount of visits, or is it going to make the job just even more difficult, kind of figuring out, hey, are they serious, or is this just trying to get us for a free trip?
Yeah, you always want to adapt with the times, and you never want to tell a kid that they can't do something, right? That's not what we're going to do. And so, if a kid wants to take more than 5 official visits, it is their right to be able to do so. But we're always going to be targeted and strategic who we're bringing on an official visit. I won't get into too much of the details without giving away our secrets, but
100%. We're not asking you to give away the state secrets here.
Yeah, the guys that we're bringing in official visits just know that we feel really comfortable with where we're sitting at in their recruitment. So, it's the last kind of final push to be able to try to get a commitment out of the kid. So.
Since we're on the topic of official visits, Matt, I'm going to switch my question order. So we're podcasting here on the fly. Just another really simple question from me. How much fun are official visits for you? It's like, what's that like from your perspective, and how much fun do you have doing them?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think A lot because you've already had these kids on campus once, twice, maybe even 3 or 4 times before, and you know these families on a more personal level. You know these kids on a more personal level, and you can kind of just take a deep breath and not try to be something that you're not. And I think when you have that opportunity to do stuff other than they come to a game and then they leave right after the game, like it's a lot more unique stuff and things that we're going to make sure we differentiate ourselves, because these kids are seeing great facilities everywhere. They're seeing great jerseys everywhere. They're taking photos everywhere. Okay, well, how are our photo shoots different? They're doing a weight room presentation everywhere. Okay, how's our strength conditioning program different? The structure of these visits are going to be very similar to all these visits they're taking. But you got to find opportunities to make sure that we're differentiating ourselves and making our visits different and unique. And I think that's what, we just had our first OV weekend a couple days ago. And I think that's what JR, Pat, and Lydia did a tremendous job of building an itinerary that was different, unique. I think we had a lot of fun, but we still were able to show them, hey, this is how you're going to be able to receive a great education at the University of Oregon. This is how you're going to get developed to become an NFL football player if that's a dream of yours with this coaching staff. Once again, checking as many boxes as possible on these visits. And so I think we did a great job this past weekend, and hopefully we continue to build upon that these next 2 weekends.
You talked about the ever-changing landscape of recruiting in football where, now because of COVID, June is a huge month when it wasn't a couple of years ago. Another thing is the transfer portal. I'm going to ask a transfer portal question. I'm sure you get asked about this all the time. Just how much more has the just giant expansion with thousands of players entering, how much more does that add to your plate and I guess add to your staff's plate as well?
Yeah, it's a lot. And the way we've kind of structured our department is we have 3 or 4 guys that, are strictly dedicated towards high school scouting and evaluations. Mm-hmm. And we make sure that we got a couple that are more so on the college side of things. And so they're in charge of monitoring the portal daily and making sure that there's no players that go in that we don't know about, and we get evaluation and guys that we need to watch. And it just the way we build a high school board and the pipeline, we're going to make sure we do that on a college level, because at the end of the day, we want to build our roster through high school recruiting, but we're always going to make sure that if there's an impact transfer out there that can plug a hole, that can fill a need for us, we're going to go battle and go get that guy. So I think Coach Lanning does a tremendous job with roster management. I think it's a tool that not a lot of head coaches are able to master. That they can do the X's and O, but when it comes to roster management, some people don't really understand that art. And I think Coach Lanning has a tremendous feel for how to manage a roster, how to manage your 85. And I think just what I've seen from Coach these past 18 months, he's a tremendous team builder. And I feel really comfortable with where our roster's at moving forward. And we got a lot of work we still got to go do this fall camp and this off season to be the team we want to be when we kick it off against Portland State. But just the talent that we've been able to acquire in the span of 18 months, I think is pretty impressive. And, we want to keep building on that and keep bringing in, the high-end elite talent, through high school recruiting, but also being able to implement through the portal as well.
In today's day and age of recruiting, whether it's football, basketball, we've even starting to see it in baseball, kids make commitments live on TV, live on shows. Started about 20 years ago. I remember Cam Colvin picking Oregon over Michigan and USC on SportsCenter about 2002 or 3, somewhere around then. And that was like a huge deal because it hardly ever happened. Everyone watches these. You pop in a commitment and thousands of Duck fans are watching a kid right before he makes his decision. What do you guys as a staff do? Are you watching just like everybody else? Is it, what's it like going into a commitment when it's on live on TV? Are you guys all huddled around together? Or is it all someone privately? What's that like for you guys?
Yeah, it's still nerve wracking, even though if the recruit has told you he's coming and committing to you, you just never know until it's over, right? So we're centered around the TV, we're huddled up, we're going nuts when the kid pulls out the Oregon hat and commits to the Ducks. That's what you work for, right? For us, that's where we get graded on if we're good at our jobs or not. Are you able to help sign sign recruits and help these coaches sign elite guys. And so it's really rewarding when you see all the work that you've put in, for 12 to 18 months kind of come to fruition when a kid commits publicly. But it's never over until signing day, until that ink's on the paper. So even though if you get a commitment in July, you gotta continue to push forward and make sure that on December 15th or whenever the early signing period is this year, that you're getting the ink on the paper and it becomes official. So the ones that are even crazier though are the day of signing day, when kids are going into that day not really sure. I mean, they think they know where they're going, but they don't. You're sweating bullets. You're nervous going into that, and then when you see them commit to the Ducks, that's super exciting. So
2022's National Signing Day was a pretty fun day for you then.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. This year we had some day of signing day scares and some failures, but also a lot of successes. And you're gonna lose some, but I think we hit on a lot of guys, and super excited about our freshman class we brought in, and really looking forward to seeing their progression this fall.
Well, thank you for the transition, because I wanted to ask about that National Signing Day, the 2022 one, just specifically. Overall, the easy question is just how exciting was that day for you? And then the follow up here, which I really want to know about, is the Dan Lanning cigar video. Was that staged? Was that something that he had thought about beforehand? Did you guys come together as a collective to say this would be really good for social media? Like, what went on there? Was that just Dan doing his thing?
No, I think that's just Coach. And, Coach is the best recruiter I've ever been around. And so to get to that point in your career, you got to be different, unique. And that was definitely a unique video, and absolutely loved it. And Coach is the man. And just another example of how down to earth Coach is. And he's just another one of the guys, tremendous promoter of the program. I think he understands how to utilize social media to our benefit, because if you don't utilize social media in today's age, you're not truly connecting the dots with recruits, because they're always on their phones. Cell phones kind of rule the world right now. So if you're not utilizing Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and all the different avenues, you're not truly promoting the brand and promoting recruiting. So that was just Coach being Coach, and I love him for it. It was awesome.
We'll get you out of here with this last one, Tyler. Just we hear this all the time. We had Jackson Powers Johnson on last week. He just raved about just Oregon in general, that called this place special. Dan has said that as well. But for you, just what makes Oregon such a special program? Everyone talks about Oregon is a juggernaut. You are in the building. You were behind the walls. What makes this place so special to have that reputation of being a juggernaut?
Yeah, to me, it's the people. I think the brand, the power of Oregon it's a national brand. Kids grew up watching Marcus Mariota, D'Anthony Thomas. They knew about the jerseys, the flash, the facilities, Autzen Stadium, the fan base. But at the end of the day, it's the people inside this building that, to me, every single day I wake up excited to come into work. Our staff is tremendous people, and our players are awesome. They've all bought into the culture. I think we're an extremely connected team. I think we're extremely connected staff. And the buy-in that we have from the top down because of Coach Lanning is tremendous. And so I think recruits feel that when they come on campus. I think the relationships that our staff builds in recruiting are elite and second to none. Because at the end of the day, a lot of schools have very similar things to offer. And when that happens, when a kid's having to pick a school between top tier programs, at the end of the day, relationships will always win out. And so I think we're elite at building relationships and the culture inside the building because of Coach Lanning. And Oregon can recruit itself. The product on the field has been a really, really tremendous product for the last couple of decades. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're just trying to make sure that we take it to the next step and the next level, and do our part to bring what Oregon fans deserve. Every single day, if you're not trying to go compete for national championships, I'm at the wrong spot. They hired the wrong guy. So I want to win. I want to win a national championship here for the University of Oregon. This fan base deserve it. The people and this administration deserves it. Everyone tied into University of Oregon deserves a national championship. And so that's our mission. That's our goal. And, we're going to make sure every single day that I come into the office that I'm doing my part to help that mission, and so super, super excited to be here. This is everything I could have asked for when I took this job. I'd never been out on the West Coast except once to a trip in LA and kind of took this job sight unseen. And when I got out here, I see all the mountains and Oregon's kind of a hidden beauty out here in the United States. No one really knows Oregon, but I've gotten a chance to kind of go around the state and see different places like Bend and Medford and different really cool spots. My girlfriend and we go a lot of different places, and this is a really unique place, and it's beautiful out here in the summers, and so this is a great time of year to have recruits on campus. The rain, I think, gets a little overhyped at times. I think we had one game this season where it rained for a quarter. So people that try to use that negatively recruiting, to me, it's a little skewed. But at the end of the day, this place is going to be able to recruit itself. But what separates us and what makes us different, I think, is the people. And so just super excited to be able to kick the ball off here in about 2 or so months and see what happens this fall. And, it's a great time to be a Duck.
Tyler, thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate the opportunity to dive into your position in Oregon Duck football recruiting and its program. Love to have you on closer to season or maybe signing day or maybe both. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time.
Yeah. Anytime, guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.